Hi friends, welcome back to Share Your Story. I'm your host Ellie B, and I'm so glad you've joined me for another episode. Today I'm so excited to welcome Darlene Hampton to the show. She is the podcast's #1 fan, and I truly am so blessed by her encouragement of the podcast and also in every area of my life. Darlene is married to Wycke and has 2 sons, Wade and Reid, as well as a sweet yellow lab, Lee. She's also a fashion stylist and represents multiple brands and hosts trunk shows from their beautiful home. Darlene has been an integral part of my family for as long as I can remember. She was present at playdates, helping coordinate parties, enjoying lunches and prayer times with my mom, and most importantly, she supported our family through my mom's battle with cancer. I love her joyful spirit, her laugh, and her chocolate chip pie, but most of all, I love the way she fiercely protects, provides, and prays for her friends, while also making sure those around her feel seen and supported. She's a living example of what it means to walk out the gospel by loving God's people, and I'm immensely grateful the Lord placed her in my life to learn from and walk alongside in this journey of life. I know you're going to love this conversation with my dear friend who is really more like a family member, Darlene. Well, now that we are all set, hi, Darlene, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We have to tell people that we did a little cheers before for Char with Dar,
Yes.
which Susan Britt coined at a dinner couple of months ago, I guess now at this point. But
Yes.
I am so excited to welcome you to the podcast, but because I think you are the podcast's #1 fan.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I can't wait. I feel like it's Christmas morning every time you have a new podcast. Love it.
Truly, I don't think I would be able to continue on doing this without your encouragement. And I think there's 3 people that I hear from pretty consistently every episode that are listening. You're always the first, and then Kelsey's mom, Sally, and then Susan Britt. There's always something to say, and it's the reason I keep going, because to have little encouragements or words of wisdom or something means so much to me. So just thank you for that.
I'm so glad. You have such a gift.
Thank you. Thank you. My favorite is when you'll text me and be like, I'm not seeing it. Is there a tech issue or whatever?
Yeah.
But you were so gracious to me last week when an entire episode uploaded with a metronome on it. And you were like, it wasn't that bad.
I listened through it. It was great. It was still great.
That's the love of a true fan, mom, friend, because it was pretty bad.
Well, I didn't mind a bit. It was such a good message. Loved it.
Thank you. Well, to get started, let's just introduce you to people. Can you share your name, where you're from, your family, what you do, just those kind of things?
Sure. I'm Darlene Hampton from Jacksonville. My husband's Wycke, and we've been married for 28 years, and we have 2 grown boys, Wade and Reid, who are 25 and 22. And I am a clothing stylist. I represent different lines of clothing and sell them through trunk shows in my home 6 to 8 times a year. So,
I'm so blessed by the gift that is the fact that we've always been friends or neighbors, because I honestly do not remember a time where you haven't been in my life, which is such a gift.
Such a gift for me. Totally a blessing for me.
I don't even know if I've shown you, but I even have this little painting that you gave me for 6th grade graduation. I think it was 6th grade graduation. I don't think it was high school. But it's hanging on the back of my door. And everywhere I've lived, it's hanging on the back of my door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll have to show it to you. Yeah, I'll show it to you.
Okay.
As soon as we finish. But yeah, I just feel like you've always been a part of my life, and I'm so grateful for it. But I'm so excited that we get to dive in more on your story. But kind of first, I'd love for you to share just growing up in Jacksonville, being around kind of the same community. What is something that really stands out from those early years that you would say really is a part of your story?
I feel like church. Like, I just remember my parents were so great about taking me to church. I did vacation Bible school, youth group, church camps, all of that. So they really brought me up in the church, and I just felt like that was a big part of my childhood. A big part of my early years.
Yeah. Did
So
you ever feel like it was something that was forced on you, or something that you had joy going to? Like what? Because I think it's so different for everyone.
yeah, I feel like both, honestly. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just assumed, like, I definitely was not really given the choice of going. It was kind of
Yes.
like, we are going. But then, I mean, I definitely was joyful going, and I considered myself a Christian. I felt like I had that box, checked. But I would say, yeah, I feel like that was just a big part of my childhood and early
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. I love actually that phrase of having a boxed check, because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's something our church says a lot is God saves first names, not last names, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not just like your family history that makes you a believer or whatnot, but it is your own personal decision. So even coming
Mm-hmm.
in those early years and foundationally being like, yep, I am a Christian and I know what that means. I think that's an experience that a lot of people have.
Yeah,
How did
exactly.
you really come to know the Lord? Did you feel like
Well, it's kind of a long story,
my
but
favorite?
but okay, so as I just said, I felt like I had that box checked. I considered myself a Christian, but I really during college drifted away a bit, didn't really go to church, maybe Easter, Christmas, that sort of thing. And but it wasn't until I graduated from college, got married, and I'd been married a couple years when my mother-in-law was diagnosed with cancer.
Mm.
She was sick for a very short time and passed away. And I just remember seeing this just incredible love and support, and just all the prayers, and just all the just it was such a blessing seeing all of that. And I remember
Mm.
thinking, oh my goodness, I want that. I want to be around those people, and I want to just feel that and to have that. So I joined my husband's church where he grew up, and where my in-laws were members. So I joined the church and was on my way, like felt like, again, little baby steps in my faith journey. But it wasn't really until my boys were little, I mean, really little, that I just felt like something was missing. I didn't know
Yeah.
what. And then a friend invited me to a Bible study. And honestly, I remember at the time, I thought, why would I want to do that? Like, why? I was so tired. I was a
Yeah.
sleep deprived mom. And I just
Yeah.
remember thinking, I don't really know why she wants me to study the Bible. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like I've already done that and I have that box checked, but I
Yeah.
went anyway. And that's kind of when it all started.
Mm.
From there, I did Beth Moore Bible studies. I remember calling your mom and asking her, because she'd been encouraging me for years, just really encouraging me in my walk, and so patiently, so patient, never pushed me. She just, would sweetly encourage me. But I remember calling her saying, which one should I start with? Should I do this one? And she'd say, no, that's a bit heavy. Why don't you start with this one? But I started doing Bible studies and my life changed. It really did.
Yeah.
And yeah, it
Yeah.
really just changed.
I feel like what is such a beautiful theme in that is you are surrounded by a lot of relationships and people
Mm-hmm.
that were encouraging you, because I think I think that's a common theme for people to feel
Mm-hmm.
like, why would I study the Bible? This feels lonely and I don't even know where to start. And
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, sometimes you get done with school things and you're like, okay, well, I'm done with that chapter of studying. It's more just about living life. And what I think your life models so beautifully is being in relationship with people. They supported you, encouraged you, and helped lead you
Yeah.
in beautiful places.
Yeah. So I would say that your mom and my dad were my two greatest, influencers of my life and my faith walk,
Mm.
just always encouraging me, always praying over me, always sending me devotions, just, so patiently waiting for me
Mm.
to have a thirst for the Lord and to really want this. And So it was so incredible.
Did that?
I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. Just did that feel overwhelming, or like they were expecting something from you, or did you just take it as like, oh, that's sweet?
I didn't get it for a while.
Yeah.
Like I knew I wanted it, but I thought it was sweet, but I also didn't get it. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Totally.
All at the same time,
Yeah.
because I knew it was something I wanted. Um, and I watched your mom like just on her faith journey, and I knew I wanted that. I just
Right.
didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't find. I found it to be very encouraging
Yeah.
and just loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. So I would say the next step in my faith journey was when your mom invited me to go to BSF. She had been inviting me for years, and I very nicely, I hope nicely, said no. I just didn't think I could do it at that time. I felt intimidated by it. I felt like I couldn't really follow all the rules and maybe wouldn't do my homework every week and all of that. So I just didn't feel like I could. But I remember where we were, sitting at the Loop in a booth, and we were meeting Susan Britt for lunch. And I remember your mom she was beaming, one of her big smiles, and I knew she had something to ask me or tell me. And she was like, "Okay, Susan Britt and I are doing BSF. We're going back in the fall. We really want you to do it. We will pick you up. We'll go to lunch after." And she was like, we really think you should do it. And it wasn't even, I didn't feel like I could say no. I just felt like I was being encouraged in the most loving way. And she was like, "Susan Britt's doing it. Kim Joel's going to be there." Hadn't even met Kim yet. And so that really started this whole other, I just felt like my faith grew so much deeper through studying through BSF. And not only that, but oh my gosh, my relationships with your mom and with Susan Britt and Kim just became so deep, such deep, wonderful Christian friendships.
Yeah.
We would go to lunch after and just focus on, the word and our lesson that day. And it was just such a sweet time that we had together.
Yeah.
And, looking back, I was actually looking back at my Bible today, and I realized that it was 2016 when your mom, asked me to start BSF, and when I started. And oh my goodness, I had no idea that, of course we had no idea what was to come.
Right.
But looking back, I can see so clearly that the Lord was really placing these incredible women in my life for a reason.
Yeah.
There was such purpose in the friendships.
Yeah.
But also in the fact that, we were going to really dive in deep and grow so deep in our faith because we were going to need it more than ever in the years to come.
Yeah. What were some of those things? Because I know for those who maybe don't know, BSF is Bible Study Fellowship. It is like a pretty intense, like you show up with homework, you go line by line studying the Bible. There were a lot of, it's like rules and things to help hold you accountable to really take Bible study seriously. But that also can be really overwhelming when you don't know what you're getting into.
Well, and that's how I felt in the beginning, but honestly, it's not that way.
Yeah.
Now it's just, it's okay if you don't do your homework. You just show up. You probably don't have as much to contribute, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You're still going to soak something, something in. And, anyway, it's been a blessing.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible blessing because again, those seeds were being planted and those friendships were being like nurtured, and now Kim and Susan Britt are two of my very best friends.
Yeah.
And, it all happened because your mom encouraged me.
Yeah. And I think I'd love to know kind of, you said that part that like you almost felt like you were missing something, like you could see it in other people. And I think what's so true of so many stages of life is you kind of think once you arrive at a certain place, like, this is what I was hoping for, but then there's still something a little bit missing. And I think what's also so beautiful about that time at BSF is, yes, you're learning about the Bible, you're growing in your walk with the Lord, but also you're just creating bonds and friendships. Because I think it can be so lonely to be in different stages of life where you're like, is anyone else feeling this? Is anyone else processing this way? Or just to be able to ask questions with people that you trust you're headed in the same direction,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What
It was
was
incredible.
what was some of that feeling kind of before going into BSF where you could look around and say like, I think I want that. I just don't know how to get there.
Yeah, like I would just see, I mean, your mom, for instance, like I would see absolute joy in her in all time. Like really, even when things weren't always, wonderful or
Right.
something hard, she was going through a hard time or something, like just having that joy in the midst of that big smile in the
Mm,
midst of, and I just thought, I want that.
yeah.
Like I felt like I still had like a little emptiness inside me
Mm,
before
yeah.
my walk with the Lord,
Yeah. Yeah.
before my faith journey.
Yeah. Gosh. I love that also though of like it's so easy to say like I want what someone else has in a
Hmm.
almost like material way, but what you could see was something that was so much deeper.
Right.
That
Because it was her heart.
right,
I
right.
felt like.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of kind of my mom, how did
Yes.
you originally become friends with my mom? And I know my Aunt Laura is a big part of that story.
Yes. Well, Laura and I actually cheered together in high school.
I love
Didn't
it.
know your mom then,
Yeah.
I know. And then we roomed together in college and became really close. And I remember your mom brought me home for your parents' wedding.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah. It was wonderful, beautiful. But I met your mom and loved her, of course, from the point that I met her, first time I met her. But it wasn't really until I moved home after college and I moved in just a couple blocks away when your parents were on Genoa.
Yeah.
And we became such close friends. Laura was in Athens then, or Atlanta, I think, and then Athens.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, we would walk together, we would shop together. She really became such a mentor to me in all things, whether it was fashion, friendships, recipes. Obviously your parents were married, but for me, boys, relationships, just she was so sweet and just
I feel like you
wonderful,
probably
loving.
shared more recipes because you're
Oh,
100% the better cook, and she would admit the same thing.
you're so sweet. I really just follow a recipe, but she gave me so many good recipes. So many, I promise.
I
So,
I love hearing because there are so many stories that you and Laura have shared over the years of college and high school and all that, and then hearing like just walking with my mom, going shopping, like that kind of normal stuff. I think sometimes when it comes to our faith, it can seem really scary that we're like giving up the fun things in life for things that are holy. And I think
right.
it's so fun to look back on all the stories of like even the fact that he made you and Laura friends in cheer, and then in college, like who he was
Mhm.
setting you up for what would lead to walking with each other through really hard times, and the friendship that you've been to my mom and my family and all of that, like the fact that I could start on the cheer team, like
Yes, I know.
that he would do that.
I
It's
know.
so
It's
beautiful.
incredible.
And I
Oh,
remember like again, I don't really remember a time before you were in our lives, thankfully. And we
oh,
used to have so many play dates, like me, Mary Claire, and Wade,
yes. Yes.
and Reid in the picture. And I used to babysit sometimes. And yeah, I just feel like you said, y'all did life together, like starting to raise
Yes.
babies and parties that would go on in the neighborhood and all that kind of stuff.
Right. She taught me so much. I know I was telling you earlier. I mean, even when I was pregnant with Wade, I remember she was going to Babies R Us, and she would tell me like what kind of bottles to buy and
Yeah.
what kind of sippy cups. And know you're going to want some of these kind of bowls but I mean, those were just little things. But I mean, she really, like I just said, was just my mentor
Yeah.
in so many things. But then more importantly, later, her faith journey and then mine.
Yeah.
She was so patient with me. But so sweet. It's so patient for so many
Very
years.
patient with me as well. She needed to
Yes.
be.
Oh my
But
goodness.
you had two boys to her two girls.
Yes.
Um
Yes.
so I mean, I know you, and even as you talked about, you are in fashion. You represent brands, all of that. What was it like when you found out you were having two boys?
I just honestly didn't know quite what to do. I'm the youngest. I have two older brothers.
Yeah.
And I was such a girly girl growing up. I was, played with Barbies, dolls. I was a ballerina. I was very girly.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I would know what to do with them, honestly, but but I've learned, and honestly, they've just been my greatest gift. It's a joy to be their mom.
Yeah.
My greatest blessing, that and be married to Wycke, and just experiencing life as a boy mom. Like, I mean, I've learned things I never thought I would learn, and
Yeah.
seeing things through their eyes, and going to wrestling tournaments. Never thought I'd go to one of those.
Yeah.
And, just, oh my goodness. And seeing them use their gifts also
Yeah.
has been so fun
Yeah.
and so wonderful and such a blessing.
I feel like you need to tell the story of Reid and what my mom saw in him.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So when Reid was little, I think he was 2. He was so young. Your mom, I remember she turned to me and was like, oh my goodness, Reid is a born warrior. And I looked at her with big eyes and was like, oh my gosh, do we want that? And she was like, we do. And I remember those words, we do, so clearly and boldly spoken over him. And oh my goodness, I should have known. I mean, he was always dressed in camo, shooting something with a fake gun, of course, in the bushes. And now he's a naval officer. He has definitely followed his passion and his purpose. But gosh, when your mom spoke those words, again, I was so young in my walk that I just didn't realize. I was like, a warrior. Do we want a warrior? I didn't get it. I honestly didn't get it.
Well, and especially coming from the ballerina fashion side of things too. You're like, what? That seems scary.
I know. Yeah, it seemed really scary to me at the time, but now I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
So, and I think I mentioned before, but your mom is Reid's godmother, so she was always speaking blessings over him, and just such a gift.
Yeah.
That was such a gift.
Did that, when she said that, did that scare you at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember that I had big eyes and just thought, oh my goodness, what does this mean?
Yeah.
He's going into battle.
Yeah.
I mean, what does this mean?
Yeah. Did that kind of, both for Reid and for Wade, how did that make you parent or pray or any of that? Like when you hear a word like that, or when you're seeing things in them, how does that shape your prayers or how you parent them?
Yeah. I think just being able to turn it over, because that seemed big to me. And I think just being able to pray like, Lord, I don't know, but you do. So please just help them to glorify you in all that they do, but just to keep turning it over.
Yeah.
Just to, because it seemed big.
Yeah.
It seemed really big.
No kidding. I also feel like my tendency, I think a lot of our tendency is we think we have a certain level of control. And if that's over our environment or the people we're around or any of that, you expect and hope life goes a certain way. And so, especially when all of a sudden you have 2 boys, which is not necessarily like you had 2 brothers, but like you said, it wasn't, you kind of didn't know what to do. It's a hard lesson to say, how do I release them and turn them back over, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. What would you say has been?
I know. I just had to pray.
Oh, go ahead. No.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I just had to pray through it. Really.
Yeah.
Just praying through it.
What would you say is your greatest, maybe challenge in raising boys?
I think walking with them through tough times.
Yeah.
And when things, didn't work out as we had hoped through life's disappointments.
Yeah.
It's hard because I just, when something doesn't work out the way we thought it would, I just want to fix it as a parent, as a mom. I just want to fix it. And that's probably going back to your control thing that you just talked about. But praying over them and with them through it.
Yeah.
And just like I just said, just giving it to the Lord and trusting Him through it. Knowing that so many times He's closing doors because He has something better. I was reminded of that just this week. I mean, just even with a small thing like Reid's apartment search, a lot of times doors are closed just because He's going to reveal something even better. Right. We can't see it at the time. We don't know why. Yeah. But we can see it clearly later.
Yeah. It takes a while to get there, though. You have to build those muscles of faith, at least in my experience. I feel like it's something that I want to say I always trust 100% right from the beginning. But I think it's, like you said, looking back and seeing the faithfulness, then you can kind of keep trusting as you move forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's so fun that we got to, the 4 of us grew up together and I think it's fun even now because even though I don't necessarily hang out with Wade and Reid, it feels so fun that our families have been interconnected because there's still stuff that I get to learn through you of like what to pray for, what's there to celebrate or what's there to like kind of cover in prayer. And I think it's so cool how God sets up families like that are not even necessarily your blood family, but something that is just makes such an impact in your life.
I do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Well, speaking of that, I feel like you have been just an extended member of our family, and especially in the hard days and the happy days. Like I said, I still have that gift that you gave me from 6th grade graduation hanging. And I feel like one of the greatest gifts that I see in you is you really show up and serve people well. And maybe some of that comes from like watching when your mother-in-law died and seeing the way the church shows up. But you, more than anyone, I think, are this huge what's the word like backbone does not seem like the right word, so forgive me for that, but
No.
you're like leading the charge of the army of the support. And I mean, our family is so much greater for it, but where do you think that was really developed, or how did you develop that quality?
I don't really know. I mean, I know my dad was such a giver and was always, whether it was taking fish by somebody's house, he loved to fish, or whether it was just doing something small. He's very thoughtful. So I don't know. I don't feel like I don't know, but I just know that I'm called to do it. And I feel like, if I can bless others in some small way, if they're going through something, whether it's hard or in times of joy or sadness, just it brings me joy if I can just help out in a small way.
Yeah. I think
I don't feel like I always have the words.
Well, I think you have such a gift for doing the practical things. Like I can remember, number one, your chocolate chip pie, bar none, is the best. But I can remember, especially right when my mom was first diagnosed, her big thing was privacy, and she didn't want a lot of people, like she was so appreciative of the support that everyone wanted to give, but she's a very stay behind closed doors kind of situation, especially when you feel so vulnerable, when you're feeling so awful. But you were the person that I would coordinate everything with. So you set up the meal train, but also had the cooler outside on the porch that for the first like 2 weeks, you would come by the second anyone would come to drop off food to make sure people didn't come inside. They just left it in the cooler. Or you helped in so much of the planning of her memorial service, or even like, hey, do you need dinner? What can I drop off? I was just at Target. What can I offer you? And I think that is such a gift that people should be appreciated and recognized for, because if we all had the same gift, we'd be missing out on so much. Like I might be a person who has a bunch of words, but I would not know what to do to organize dinner, Well,
I know you would. You're amazing. But I feel like I don't always have the words. Like sometimes my heart might be hurting for someone, or, rejoicing for them, whatever the case may be. But I don't always have the words. So I just hope that my actions, like doing something small for them, can bless them in some way, because, you have the gift of words.
Thank you.
I don't think I have those.
But that's exactly, like, I would forget about the practical so much. And I know, at least like for me specifically, for those first few months that my mom was so sick and diagnosed, I was working for the first time too. Like I had my very first job and was still living at home. And so the thought of my mom being so sick, my dad assisting and helping her and caretaking for her, I was so overwhelmed with what am I supposed to do, and how do I contribute to this? And the fact that there were those, what may seem to others like a small thing, like dinner is already handled, it's in the cooler, these are the instructions, or here are the essentials. Like that was life-changing for me, truly.
Well, I'm so glad. It was, again, something small. And the thing is, everyone loves your family. and loves your mom, and just people just want to do something, anything, but anything they could do just to help in any way.
Well, I think you are such a fierce protector and pursuer of people. And those gifts just, like you said, even the practical stuff, it's a really, really big gift to so many.
Oh, thank you. Hope so.
Well, I mean, speaking of that season, what was it like to grieve alongside my mom, my family? Because again, you're also close with Laura, who's my mom's sister, and but you also did so much to support us and offer hope. But I would love to hear more of just what that was like for you.
It was hard. I mean, it was so hard, but walking through that time, because it was so hard to see your mom suffer. And you know, but at the same time, I mean, it was a beautiful time, which I know sounds so odd because it was one of the hardest things I've ever walked through, and I know that you've ever ever walked through. But it was beautiful in seeing your mom never losing hope. Pointing everyone to Jesus. I mean, her unwavering faith in the midst of it all. She never lost hope ever. You know, and so I remember that we would give each other verses, mainly your mom giving them to me. But I mean, in you know, the most loving, wonderful way, but you know, ways that I could pray for her and support your family. And I remember one that stuck out to her was the Romans 12:12. She said it really spoke to her to be, you know, joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. And she really lived that out. You know? I think it was so beautiful how others really saw Christ in her. The way she lived her life, and other people were so drawn to her. And how she sought the Lord first in all things.
I think, those things are really true. I think as her daughter, you know, there's like unique things that I know, felt, experienced. And I remember specifically there were a few times where it was kind of hitting me just how intense everything was, or just the fear of losing my mom and what life could look like, even though I had hope and would never say otherwise. But I remember a few times that I just had to literally like leave the room and cry because I wanted to almost like hold that hope in front of her. And she, because she is who she is, would come and find me and just say, let's just cry it out. Let's just process. But what was that like as her friend? Because I feel like you and my mom did so much together, especially during that season. And like you said, there was foundations there through Bible study and lunches and even social stuff, or but what was that like for you? Like, how did that challenge your faith, or kind of in that process?
I felt like my faith grew just even deeper watching your mom, as I just said, like to see her unwavering hope and unwavering faith. And I remember one time she said, you know, because I think we were all just, I don't know, it was just such a tough time. But I remember again, her just speaking such words of truth, and how she said one time, I don't want to be their strength. I want the Lord to be their strength. So, but being her friend, I mean, gosh, one of the greatest blessings of my life was being your mom's friend. And I just remember just those lunches with like incredible, just, you know, talks of just Jesus. And, you know, definitely we would talk about her circumstances some, but we wouldn't dwell on those. And your mom never did. We would just pray about them and turn them over. And of course, we were just so full of hope, knowing she was going to be healed. But just walking through her with that time was tough, but also such a blessing. An incredible blessing.
Well, I can say, even from my end of things, like, I'm going to cry saying this, but even I can see it so clearly in my life, how much you've just been there and been present. But that was never more true than in the practical ways of, like I said, food and do you need help going to appointments, or can I help take the dog for an afternoon so Annie can run around with Lee for a while? But also afterwards, like even in the hard days afterwards, like I remember having to go and clean out her closet, and having you there and being a part of it. I think it's a hard thing to do, to enter in as a friend and share it like family. And it blesses, I know, us so much too, that like you showing up that day even to clean out the closet, it was like, what are the pieces that I want you to have them first, but that I would love to hold and cherish something. And that just speaks to how much her friendship, meant to you. But that you're also willing to just be there on the hard days. I think it's it can be so much easier
it was my
to
honor.
just walk away because the emotions feel hard. But yeah, I just want to say a big thank you.
My honor.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Of course. Oh my gosh, it blessed me.
Yeah.
I mean, more than words can even say.
Yeah.
Like, it blessed me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those times where I just feel like, my heart overflows with just like joy.
Yeah.
It just, being part of your family and your mom's friend.
Yeah.
But she was such a blessing to me. And one thing I did want to just mention is, I mean, she never lost hope.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
As we've already talked about. But I remember being at lunch one day, and I remember it was Christmas time. We were out doing some Christmas shopping, and we were at lunch at the Fox, having a big old burger. But I remember our conversation turned, pretty serious, and she was talking about just like the circumstances, and just what she was walking through, and kind of the what ifs. And we talked about how, she referred to the Philippians, to live as Christ, to die as gain. Yeah. And that was the first time she really ever spoke to me about like the what if.
Yeah.
But I remember us talking about how it was a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how if he healed her on this side of heaven, I mean, I remember us talking about how we're probably going to be, old and gray, sitting at the Fox talking about it, years from now. But then she talked about, but the what if, but if he doesn't, it's okay, because I'm going to be healed in heaven.
Yeah.
And I remember there were tears that day, and we both, and I really did, honestly, that's another time, like I just didn't know what to say except to encourage her. And she was, the biggest thing is she wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
She just said, I just can't leave my girls.
Yeah.
And that was, she just said, I just can't leave my girls. Yeah. So, but she wasn't afraid at all.
Yeah. That moment in general has been such a gift, a little like a nugget of truth over the years, because I think you shared that with me after she went to be with the Lord, and it was such a hard there's so much beauty in the fact that none of us ever lost hope. Like there was not a single one of us who had any kind of belief that it would end any other way in her being healed on this side of heaven. And we needed that. Like we needed an army of people who hoped against all hope, believed against all belief, no matter what doctors were saying. But then that also meant that we never really had goodbyes either. Like there really wasn't that like, here's this parting piece of wisdom, or here's something I want to offer you. Like there was really, I guess goodbye.
There wasn't.
Yeah. And so I think that even story, because it felt like none of us even considered that there could be another option. The fact that, she spoke that to you of how much she didn't want to leave. Cause I think at least for me personally, it was so hard to think like we never got those parting words, and to think that if it were up to her, she wouldn't have left,
She would not have left. Right.
Yeah. Even though she was not afraid to leave and be with Jesus, she didn't want to. Yeah.
And honestly, I remember in that conversation, I remember thinking to myself, look at her strength.
Mm,
And of course it was from the
right.
Lord, but look at her strength. Like as she said those words, as we sat there, she got teary as she talked about y'all.
Mm,
She didn't want to leave
yeah.
y'all, but her hope, and her faith was so, I mean, anyway, she just had such
Yeah.
strength saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It was
I love
beautiful.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I grieve or struggle with is sometimes I just feel like I miss out on like that season of friendship with my mom because I think um like my mom was diagnosed right after I graduated college, and yes, we had such a close relationship and I would consider her my best friend, but there's something in entering into adulthood of living on your own completely and going to work every day and new friends, new relationships, all that kind of thing, that I get so not in like a bitter way, but just envious of friends who can like call their mom and talk about what's going on at work. And I actually remember specifically there was right as she was getting really, really sick towards the end in like April, I was dealing with something really heavy at work. And I remember calling her to talk through it. And she just was like, Ellie, I'm sorry. I'm not strong enough right now. I'm not capable. This is what I'm dealing with. And I remember there being this distinct shift of like, kind of, I need to be the supports role now. Like we switched roles
Yes.
some. But
I know that was so hard.
yeah, it was. And I think though what God has shown me is how much of a gift he gave me in my mom's friends, because I was always surrounded by y'all, like you and Susan Britt and the Cheryls and just Trisha and my aunts and all that, that I got to develop all these really strong relationships with people who are so close to her. But I think you have been such a gift on what God gave me as the provision of missing out on that friendship with my mom. Because I love our dinners that we get to go to
I
together.
do too. Love it. I love our time together.
But it also came, and I was so brokenhearted and so just honestly felt like such a shell of myself for so long. And it's really only just now really coming out in other ways. But I think there were some times where I probably was not even the nicest through your
yes, you were
to try to like, what if we got dinner? Call me about this. And so number one,
of course you were.
Just apologize because I feel like there were sometimes I was ugly.
No. I just never wanted to bug you. I didn't want you to think, oh, it's my mom's friend Darlene again. She won't leave me alone. But no, never for a second.
But I think that's such a word of encouragement, because it's the same way that my mom would not stop asking you to come to Bible study or send a word of encouragement or whatnot, is what you did for me. And even without trying, you just knew, like, I want to show up. And you are such a fierce protector. And I'm like, I think it's so a place where I can see God so clearly, where like, I know 100% you are on my side. And you also have the history of my family and my relationships and whatnot. Because even if it wasn't when you and I were going to lunch while I was in college, my mom was sharing those things with you, and
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just some of my favorite things. Our dinners at Biscotti's.
I love our time together. Love our time together.
And you're always like, get the piece of cake. I think you need to take this to go. Should we get another appetizer? Like, you just spoil me or offer me.
Oh my goodness.
Like when I was buying my house, you came over with wine and flour or devotionals or all these things that you constantly show up as like, you're not going to let me go. And I'm just really, really grateful for that.
Well, you're welcome. Blesses me.
But I think there's something to be said of people should really look for friendships that are reciprocal, because I think what has also been the gift is I've been like allowed into your family and story too, of like, here's what I really need you to pray over my family, or here's kind of what's going on and what we're struggling with. And that has been such a gift to me to feel like connected and a part a different way.
Well, I love it. You're a fierce prayer warrior, and I appreciate your prayers. So, anyway, I love our time
Me
together.
too.
It's so precious
Me
to
too.
me.
It's my favorite. That, and we also laugh a lot.
Yes.
And gossip feels like too strong of a word, but
Yeah, not gossip.
but we know how to talk through situations with each
Catch
other.
up.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Share. We
Yeah, we
share.
share over sharp.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I just love it so much. Well, what do you feel like is, before we get to the very final question,
Sure.
what's something that you feel like God has been teaching you over the last couple of years?
I really feel like to trust and to give it all to Him. Big and small. I remember your mom, one thing she did teach me too, one of the many
Yeah.
things, was to pray about everything. I don't know if I said that earlier, but to pray about everything, not just the big things, the small things too, and to really surrender, to give it all to Him and to trust that His plan's better than mine.
Yeah.
So I feel like He's reminding me of that and teaching me that over and over.
Yeah.
Sometimes things don't look like what we want them to look like, but we have to trust that He knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And He has us where He wants us.
When you look at your life now, kind of that same thought around, like, even when it doesn't look like what you thought it would, like, what are the places in your life that life looks so different than you thought it would?
Gosh. Well, being a mom to two adult young men.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't know what to expect. It's wonderful, but it's just a new phase, a new chapter. I'm not really parenting. I'm like more of a mentor, encourager at this point. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I just think different things I prayed about, and maybe He shut a door.
Yeah.
Even like I remember where Reid went to college. We prayed a different way, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
A door shut, but then another opportunity came along, and we knew that it became apparent that that's where the Lord had him. And same with Wade, like a door shut, for him at one point, and another one opened. So again, I think just praying through all those things when life doesn't look like what we want it to look like.
Yeah.
Or how we, what we prayed for doesn't happen.
Yeah. What are some of your biggest hopes or prayers right now?
Oh gosh. Well, in relating to for my boys specifically, or
anything,
just for
anything
in general? Okay. Well, for my boys, I would say that they find their purpose, their God-given purpose, and that they'll draw close to the Lord and really have a thirst for Him and a relationship with Him. I pray over their relationships, both with friends and their future wife, that they'll have godly friendships and godly relationships. And I just really feel like I want the Lord to I want to grow deeper, to keep, in my faith.
Yeah. I totally see that. I mean, again, there are so many things that you have encouraged me in, and fears that I have, or hopes that I have that have not come to fruition yet, or just grieving, or any of those things. And then also like what some might consider small, like the painting for my birthday.
Oh, well, that was Susan Brett. I was just the delivery
You were
girl.
a dynamic duo in that scenario.
Well, I'm so glad it all worked out. But no, that was Susan Brett. I can't even take credit.
It was the both of you. I'm claiming that.
I just love how it worked out.
Me too.
And I love the surprise. I wish we could. That joy, that big smile on your face.
Oh my gosh, yes.
When you walk down the street and you
saw
it. I think Kelsey saw it first.
For those, I'll tell a very quick snippet, but we saw some of Susan Britt's beautiful paintings that me and Mary Claire were like, oh my gosh, they just feel like us. And they were hanging in a gallery for a while, and we couldn't afford them and loved them, but wanted someone else to have the opportunity. And then Susan Britt's generosity and Darlene's sweet way to bring it all together, they brought it as a surprise for my birthday, one for me, one for Mary Claire. And Darlene had texted me that she wanted to make my birthday special because I confessed where I was kind of struggling and whatnot. I'll never forget you texting me and being like, I'm not sure if you're around already. I can pop by whenever because you were just itching to get over here.
Oh my gosh. I was circling the block. Like I was driving around your neighborhood. I was so excited. I couldn't stand it. I felt like it was Christmas morning. I was so excited.
But I felt
And
so bad because we had like a dinner
okay.
happy hour and whatnot. And you had texted me like an hour and a half before. And you were like, yeah, I've just been circling the neighborhood. Don't worry. But you were all set up on my porch.
It's okay. I was all set up and I was FaceTiming with Susan Britt. So that was fun. Just to capture the joy on your face and tears of joy. I remember
truly.
you crying tears of joy. It was amazing.
Oh, the best. And that is is such the picture perfect moment of God has been so good to me in the midst of where I feel like there's this gaping hole of just providing such dear and sweet and generous people that have stepped in so many ways. And you're a huge part of that.
You are loved. You are loved by so many.
Well,
and you are so blessed.
I just love you so much.
Love you.
Before we get to the very final question, is there anything else that you feel like you would love people to know about your story or something that encourages you or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. Not really. Just to start somewhere. Like if you're like I was and find that maybe you feel like you're missing something in your life. Like maybe there's a little void and you don't know what it is and you don't have a relationship with the Lord. To just start small and like start a devotion, find a mentor, start a Bible study. Yeah. Just start somewhere. Just start small. Yeah. And it will grow over time. I would just want to encourage people to do that.
That's such a good word because it's like you said, your relationship with my mom was even like, let's talk clothes, let's talk baby toys, let's talk all those things. It doesn't have to be complicated, and God meets us right where we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Well, the final question, and as the number one fan of the podcast, you already know that we always ask, what's one word you'd use to describe the current chapter of your story, Darlene?
I just think hope. I love the word hope. Just hope that it never disappoints. Yeah. I know I touched on it earlier, to have hope in all things, even when you're going through tough times. Just choose hope over fear. So I feel like hope. Yeah. I'm hopeful of many things.
Well, in this moment, do you know what I'm hopeful for? What? That you will come join me on the podcast multiple times after this, because you maybe had some fear, but you are an incredible podcaster.
Oh my goodness. Well, I loved every second. You make it easy.
Well, I promise you're going to have to come back. We need to do like multiple sessions of Shar with Dar.
I would love it. I would love it.
On every topic.
Anytime. Oh, I'd love it.
Well, let's go finish our Shar. Thank you so much for being here. Sounds and I can't wait for many more.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Always. Did you notice how many times I said the word gift throughout that episode? I couldn't mention it at the top of the show because it would have been all you heard, but I said it so often because that is what Darlene is. A gift to me and so many others. Our family has relied on her friendship, prayers, and delicious meals in the best and worst of times. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that I wouldn't have survived the past 7 years without her generosity and support through my hardest days. Darlene is overwhelmingly generous and kind. She's always looking for ways to help and serve others. She gives herself, her time, her baked goods, and her words of encouragement so faithfully, and just wants to lift God and glorify Him above all else. I love getting together with Darlene to giggle and share and process the hard stuff, because I know she's always a welcoming and warm person to guide me in life. Please make sure you give Darlene a follow on Instagram and leave her a message about what blessed you when sharing her story. She encourages me so much, and I'd love for her to feel the same encouragement. Also, beg her to come back for more Shar with Dar, because we always have so very many things to talk about. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, and please make sure you follow me and the podcast on Instagram. All of those links, including Darlene's profile, are linked in the show notes. I'd also encourage you to rate, review, and share the show, maybe with someone you hope to encourage to take a baby step into faith, like Darlene mentioned, or who you want to thank for being an uplifting voice in your life. I am so thankful Darlene is one of mine. And please make sure to come back here and join me on Thursday for my conversation with Amen Frank Kiesler. Talk to you on Thursday.